Oh yeah.
Okay,
Because if we're waiting and you're live,
that'll
then
give people
yeah.
time to join. Yeah, because anyone who's subscribed to her will get the notification that she's gone live. So that's good. Okay. This does provide some element of stabilization.
It's a little jiggly.
Yeah, once I get settled.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here on this rainy day. Is it raining outside actually? I think it stopped. Wow. Can you believe it? Don't blink. We've had a lot of rain in Georgia, haven't we? So we're going to get started in a little bit. We are just waiting for one of our panelists to arrive. And we have Laura. We have Laura all the way from New York. Hey, Laura. She's taking her seat back there.
7 minutes to our final member arrives.
Okay, so we'll start as soon as Maya arrives. We will get started. It's quite a tight program, as you know. But sit tight, and I'll be back in a minute.
All right, we can do.
You can chat amongst yourselves in the meantime.
Someone joined. Can I pull up Yeah, Emma here. Hello, Emma.
It's too bad I didn't bring my grip tape. We could tape it to my tripod.
Oh, that's all right. She wanted movement anyway.
Okay.
She wanted to be able to move, so
Yeah.
selfie stick.
Well, I've got wheels.
Oh, nice. Mine does not have wheels. And I also don't have a mount for this. Not for that tripod, but I do for the DSLR. Well, somebody's watching. Yes, that's good. Wish I could use it. Yeah, that's just options. I guess you can only do that on the computer.
Hey, see, you're getting
That's
your
good.
people back.
Good.
You're just missing one person. And they're gonna never stop watching the other one because it ended when you started this one, right? You can't do.
Well, yeah, I can't do it at all. So it said waiting
Yeah.
for Sunny. So yeah, it's not doing anything right now. So that's fine. Yeah, thank goodness it notifies them when you start a live stream. So all the subscribers.
Ready?
I just got this one 2 days ago. Well, actually, yeah, last week.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a very nice camera. I got it for the camera because it shoots in 4K.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've had this one for about 5 years.
Oh, hey.
We're live. my first drink. Okay.
Right, all of us. Thanks for it. Jen's supposed to come. I thought Jen said she was
Healthcare is the most expensive.
It rained earlier.
Four minutes for arrival. She's just here. She just got off the bus.
Oh, of course. I did. I saw it that day. I saw it at International Women's Day. Susan! Hi! You talked to Vanessa. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Oh, yeah.
I thought you'd be in the costume.
Yeah, she wants to take a seat.
Rita! Hey. Oh, hey girls. How's it been?
Good.
Outstanding.
How are you?
So whatever you want. You okay, Andrew?
My foot.
Your foot.
Yeah.
Anything about it.
Take a rest. Yeah.
They haven't heard anything, Kat.
Smile, go. Happy fun. I think it's fine. Right. Oh, I gotta take a picture. Wait. You can't forget me. Sorry. All right, ladies. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Yeah, what kind of-
I decided a few guys.
I'm gonna cut ahead. I'm gonna cut in first.
That's really close quarters.
Oh, we gotta start.
There she is.
Why is there broccoli to see? I know.
Ryan, Maya. Hey, Maya. Maya. We need another photo.
So fun. Good to see you in person.
Are you okay? No, you can relax. Very much. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's great. Ladies, let me take one more photo now that mine is here. Right, ladies? Big smile.
Progress is a wonderful process. The best part is I don't even have to be there. You two are, of course, invited to the St. Tuesday birthday. Even if you arrive late, there will be beef, chicken, shrimp, fish taco bites, Irish whiskey coffee, of course, Irish cream, but a friend of Maria's, a girlfriend of Maria's, a partner of Maria's. It's a friend of our community, and you are welcome. I hope you find your glasses.
We know where they are. They're just unreachable right
My
now.
environment is low rent and comfortless. You won't get wine. And as you know, there's places you can sit. I'll let you. Is everything taken care of Wi-Fi?
Yeah, we're live right now.
The PayPal should be cleared by Monday. I will send you both the payments by Wednesday.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to keep this steady.
Okay. Whew, now we can get started. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the very first Autistic Women's Panel hosted by Powerhouse Strong. My name is Jennifer Rees-Polson, and I'm the founder of Powerhouse Strong. It's a personal safety and empowerment program, and I am truly honoured to be hosting this event today. The idea came from Sunny Donnellan. This is her baby, actually, and it was in fact 2 years ago. Well, this panel event has been in the making for 2 years, and that's 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, mostly tears on my part. Just kidding. But I'm not going to ramble on too much because we are our timing is very tight. But I'd like to start by introducing the panel to you. Just switch this slide. Bear with me a second. Technology. That's not right. Wait a second. No, it doesn't want to do it. Oh, yeah, there. I just want that slide on there. There we go. Thank you, Louise. Just give Louise a hand around. Okay, so let's just I'm just going to quickly introduce the panel. We have Kayla Rodriguez. Just wait a minute. Hi, Kayla. Becky Stelanova. Hi, Becky. Becky's all the way from Canada, by the way. Mimi Sabra. Nice to see you, Mimi. Ford Gentry. Did I pronounce that correct? Maya Sundermeyer. Yes. Nice to see you, Maya. Laura Nadine, who's all the way in New York, just sitting down here on the chair with the sky here. Hi, Laura. Great to meet you. And of course, the wonderful Sunny Donnellan. Stand up, Sunny. Woo! And we have our two moderators today for the panel, and that is Ashley Dudley. Say hello, Ashley. And Karen, is it Weissman? Nice to meet you, Karen. I'm not going to ramble on too much. I just want to give you a very quick overview of today's agenda. So what's going to happen is Sunny is going to come up and give us all a short presentation on what autism actually is. Then we're going to have 4 of the panelists coming up one by one. They're going to come up to the podium and they're going to give their presentations on their experiences with autism. Then we're going to take a very short break where you can help yourself to some light refreshments. Then we're going to come back and the last three panelists will give their presentations. Then this will be followed, we're going to move the podium, then this will be followed by a panel session. And all 7 panelists will be up here, sitting up here, and our moderators will start with some questions for the panel. And then you, the audience, are very welcome to ask questions too. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Sunny Donovan up to the podium. Thank you, Sunny.
All right. Thank you. Whose phone is this? One second. Okay. All right. Hi, guys. So we contacted the media, and 11 Alive told us that this was an event just called Women in Chairs, which is the reason why they didn't want to broadcast this. So, really, this is a waste of your time. I don't know why any of you bothered showing up here today. My name is Sunny Donovan, and jokes aside, we're going to talk about what autism is. Now, autism spectrum disorder is pervasive, which means that it affects our mental, cognitive, social, and learning abilities. And, there are links between cognition and learning and cognition and socializing, in which these links have been kind of severed in our brains from birth. That is what it means to be autistic. So we have to restructure these links in order to, we try our best, obviously, to function as normally as possible. Now, during an autistic's life, the average autistic is affected in these following ways here. First, we have that daily routines can be harder to follow because an autistic person may need a lot of structure to these daily routines. They have to be very much the same every day, very predictable. But you will also have some autistic people who learn over time to learn to adapt, to be more flexible. But some of us struggle with these transitions or changes, which just makes it very hard to cope with. So, part of the daily routine is, I want to say how meeting the demands of daily life can also be very stressful. It says the demands of school and work.
Right here?
It literally says about okay, we're gonna go on. So basically, you're trying to meet the demands of school and work-related stress or school-related stress is where employers and teachers need to give people with autism spectrum disorder more time on tested assignments or to get more stuff done. Maybe have fewer assignments at a time, especially given the time and a half on tests, for example, is huge. This reduces a lot of anxiety. Now, some kids on the autism spectrum may not be able to get a career or a job because they are further in the forest of autism than some of us. Some of us are just deeper in the forest where they might not be able to have a regular job, and they may need a lot of assistance in everyday life, while others of us strive to get a career and a major and everything. I would also like to say that socializing is also challenging for those of us on the autism spectrum. That being said, some of us have trouble looking at people in the eye, making eye contact. You will see some of us not understanding certain social cues, like jokes or sarcasm. Jokes can be taken literally, which is very annoying to neurotypicals, but what they don't seem to understand is that we have a hard time with jokes or sarcasm because we have a very literal mindset. And so some of us will learn about jokes and sarcasm over time, while others of us may continue to struggle for the rest of our lives. And also just simple conversations, starting and carrying out conversations is very demanding for some autistic people. But for others, like I said, over time it gets better. I also wanted to point out, finally, that certain stimuli are very overwhelming. Have you ever seen a child on the autism spectrum cover their ears during a loud church service or whatever, or in a restaurant? So that is because their ears are very, very sensitive, which means that the noise coming in through the speakers, the people like singing or people talking, it can be very overwhelming and very stressful. It's too noisy for some people on the autism spectrum. However, some of us, when we grow up, we learn to cope with these certain stimuli, outside stimuli, and even enjoy music and going to parties and watching fireworks and stuff like that. Others of us continue to have sensory overload, which causes meltdowns. Now, one thing that everyone should be aware of is that autistic people may have seizures because of flashing lights. Not all of us have seizures, but some of us have epilepsy and disorders that cause seizures because of certain stimuli, overload, flashing lights, stress, or really strong emotions, etc. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is, where was the last slide? Meltdowns are very common among autistic people. I believe that every single autistic person has meltdowns, and this is because of sensory overload, processing disorders, processing delays where we may have a hard time understanding what is going on around us. So we need to find a way you need to let us exit for a while and give us time to calm down and recharge our batteries. Recharging our batteries is a way to prevent meltdowns. And we just need everyone to be understanding of that. Now, finally, I want to spread more acceptance and love in the autism community. I believe there is already enough awareness as is. And I'm Sunny Donnellan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, so we're going to start with our first presenter today, and that will be Ford Gentry.
Hello, my name is Ford. I'm 21 years old, and I've been diagnosed with autism for a majority of my life, since about 3rd grade or so. And I'm here today to talk about a topic that I think is pretty important. So, being a woman can be hard. I'm sure ladies in the audience all know how much of a pain it can be, right? And being a disabled woman, that's like being a woman on hard mode. For us autistic folks, it's hard having to navigate this inaccessible world which frankly does not understand us, having to manage the difficulties we have in life as disabled people, and on top of that, deal with expectations we have in life as disabled people. That come with being a woman, with being a woman too. We have a lot to deal with just being disabled, and with being a woman, it's rough when everyone tells you you've got to wear makeup, wear your hair a certain way, you're dressed right too. For some people, even so much as showering can be difficult, let alone all the extra effort required for feminine presentation. I think it's easy to forget that a natural look with minimal product isn't easy. Makeup is a skill and it takes time, coordination, and energy. So many things go into makeup that I know I would struggle with. It's not uncommon for people on the spectrum. The fact is, for the average person, makeup can take around 15 to 20 minutes as is, and that's for an able person with good coordination, and as well as being fairly optimistic. Folk who struggle with motor skills and coordination will take much longer. For me, because of my meds, there used to be a time where I would shake so much I couldn't even put on like an even coat of nail polish. I can't imagine something like mascara or like eyeliner like that. Like that would be so hard. The issue is when it's hard as is, simply getting out of bed in the morning, the fewer complex strenuous tasks the better. It's not uncommon for autistic folks to struggle with energy, executive dysfunction, or both. Because of this, day-to-day tasks can be extremely hard. Even in non-extreme situations, there are people who have energy that is too limited to spend that much time on makeup. Women shouldn't have to exert themselves mentally or physically beyond their own limit just to please other people. You're not less of a woman if you can't or choose not to wear makeup or spend most of your time in t-shirts or comfy pants. I would love to see a shift in expectations of a woman away from having to look a certain way to be respected. Not all women have the energy, not to mention sensory issues and coordination. While it's not shameful that women on the spectrum tend to struggle with or choose not to perform femininity to standards set by society, it seems to cause people to regard us as lazy when we aren't. We just have more important things to use our limited energy on, and that's okay. We shouldn't be expected to sacrifice ourselves on the whims of others. Including societal standards of gender presentation, when not only do many of us struggle with energy we might not even want to in the first place. This also extends to women who sometimes but don't always present femininely. Energy can be a nebulous thing for some people, and even though someone may have energy some days, it does not mean they will consistently. Some days I have much energy, extra even, and some I have none at all, and struggle to even get out of bed. The fact that I have days that I have extra energy does not prove that the days I don't are me being lazy. Therefore, women who have put more effort on their looks on some days are not lazy on those they don't. For me, dress-up days have to be planned in advance so I can manage my energy in a way that allows me to have extra I need. This is not uncommon among people who are disabled, especially those with autism. People who don't present femininely shouldn't be regarded as lazy or looked at with contempt. It's valid not to spend all your energy on femininity, and while I have no disdain or ill feeling towards those who do, I believe that we should collectively put more effort into not looking down on women who don't for any reason. While it is fine to present femininely and put as much effort as you want into makeup, women shouldn't have to look a certain way to be respected, able or otherwise. It's completely unfair that people have a non-zero minimum of makeup a woman must wear, and it's important to realize makeup is a choice. Some people have very good reasons for not partaking in it. Because no one should be told they have to look a certain way, buy a certain product, or change themselves to the desires of others to be respected. Because things that may be nothing to an able person may be a momentous task to people on the spectrum due to limited energy and executive dysfunction, which causes many of us to struggle with day-to-day tasks that able people would do easily and causes us to look uncaring and lazy, which is untrue, and because yes, being a woman is hard, but it doesn't have to be.
Thank you so much for that. That was nice and empowering. Okay, our next speaker is Kayla Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Kayla Rodriguez. I'm a 22-year-old Puerto Rican autistic lesbian. Hopefully by sharing my story, I'll discover more women like me. I have type 1 diabetes, OCD, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Today I would like to share my story so if any women have been through what I've been through, they won't feel alone. I was born in New York, but we moved around a lot. When I was 3 years old, I got diagnosed with PDD and my mom and dad got divorced. I didn't start talking until I was 4. My PDD later developed into Asperger's syndrome, but since that term is being thrown out of use, now I just say I'm autistic. Autism affects me in a lot of certain ways. Some I grew out of, some I didn't. For instance, I used to not talk and not look people in the eye. Now I do like to talk and I do look people in the eye. Autism makes me sensitive to loud noises, it makes me talk loudly, it makes me repeat myself often, it makes me message people too much, and it makes me have poor social skills. It also makes it hard for me to deal with my emotions, stress, and changes. Autistics are known for having obsessions, and I had a lot of them. Now I'm obsessed with video games. My autism also makes it hard for me to be independent, and I never want to live by myself. Despite these challenges, I accept being autistic because it makes me who I am, and it makes me have a unique perspective on the world. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes makes me inject insulin into myself 3 times a day, and it makes me test my blood sugar several times a day. In 2005, I moved to Florida, where I started getting bullied by my classmates and my teacher, Ms. Ryan. My classmates called me Miss Diabetes to make fun of me, and Miss Ryan was just so mean to me and didn't stop the bullies. I was known for being so kind and caring, but when Miss Ryan started bullying me, I had my first ever bad bout of wanting to hurt her. She also made me develop a fear of teachers that lasted until the end of high school. At the end of the school year, my mom found out about this, and she sued the Board of Education and got Ms. Ryan fired. This was the first time I saw the power of advocacy. Back then, autism wasn't really well known, and when it was diagnosed, it was mostly boys. So coming of age as an autistic girl was very hard. My mom had to Xerox autism literature for the teachers so they can understand me. During this time, my stepfather became abusive. He was an alcoholic, so it was really weird because he was also very mean to me and my family, but he was also so close to me. Due to the poor social skills caused by my autism, I lacked the social cues to whether or not this was wrong or not. I later did find out that it was wrong. This all happened while I was discovering my sexuality. In 2007, I fell in love with my first ever best friend, who was the first person to ever accept me for who I am outside my family. She was straight, so nothing ever romantic happened between us, but she made me realize I like girls. Despite being her friend and having one other friend, I was mostly alone in my room. The struggles of being lonely, having feelings for my best friend, struggling with my family life, and all the bullying eventually led to me becoming suicidal. In 2008, I planned for the first time to kill myself. Suicide is a hidden epidemic in autistic people. In studies conducted a few years ago, 11 to 14% of autistic kids have considered suicide, and 50% of autistic adults have considered suicide. It's probably because it's hard to grow up and live in a society that doesn't accept or understand you. For kids, it's a struggle to accept themselves and understand themselves and all the bullying. For adults, it's a struggle to have a social life and get a job. There needs to be suicide prevention services in the autism community. I was always anxious and awkward in school, but when I entered high school, these feelings increased dramatically. This was also the time where I started going to psychiatrists and taking medication, but the medicines really didn't help me until recently. Junior year ended up being the worst year of my life so far. In the middle of the school year, I moved to Georgia, so that means I was lonely again. On May 2nd, 2013, I was raped by my stepfather. It was the worst year of my entire life. Worst day of my entire life. He was in my life for 12 years, so that means he was a part of my childhood. So whenever I think about my childhood, he's there and I hate it. It's been 6 years and I haven't really moved on from it. I did report him to the police, but since the age of consent in Georgia is 16, they couldn't do anything. Which is weird because since I'm technically a minor when I'm 16, But does that mean I'm a victim of pedophilia? I have to accept that I'll never get justice. The Me Too and Time's Up conversations have been going around lately, and that's great. But what needs to be in conversation are women with disabilities, other neurodiverse women, and women with autism because we are more likely to experience sexual assault than other neurotypical women. We need to make sure we get the support services that we need, and the people who commit these horrors will get what they deserve. In the middle of my senior year of high school, I was having a lot of stress and meltdowns, so the high school I was in referred me to a GNES school. GNES is basically like, they don't even emphasize learning at all. You just take do the assignments and you pass. But despite this, at the end of the school year, I was under 2 classes to graduate. So I pushed myself to graduate as soon as I can. Because of all the stress, I developed OCD. I did end up graduating in December 2014. After this, my OCD started getting worse. I used to wash my hands so much that it became raw and red, and I had to wear gloves. This was also the time where I started getting into heated fights with my mom and sister. While I do realize now that autistics are known for having violent outbursts sometimes, I still regret that I hit them during these fights, and I don't know, hopefully I'll forgive myself someday. Even though autistics are known for having violent outbursts, we're not the violent people that the media portrays us to be. I also had limited social interaction because I wasn't in school and I didn't have a job, so I was basically lonely. However, things soon changed. I didn't really have a passion for a career as a kid, and my IEP meetings never developed a plan for me out of high school. So I was stuck and I have no plan. And I'm still stuck, but hopefully I'm starting to get a plan going along. I want you to know you don't need a college degree to have a job. There are plenty of careers out there that don't require a college degree. And I also have poor social skills, so it's really hard for me to make a connection with people. Combine this with the struggle for gay people to meet other people. Combine this with how hard it is for gay people to meet other gay people. It's a real struggle to find a partner, and I've never had a girlfriend in my life. Ever since I was raped, I became more passionate about what's right. I keep learning more about social issues. I'm against all forms of hate, including racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, and transphobia. And I'm deeply in the fight against sexual harassment and assault and abuse. In 2016, I joined Autistic Self-Advocacy Atlanta, where I met a group of autistics, women and men where I can relate to and I feel like I belong. I met Aaron Denberg Niederhofer, who then the next year referred me to the Bobby Dodd Institute Ambassador Program, where I trained under my mentor Kylie Moore and won the Golden Goldie Award for Young Community Advocate with. From that program, I met Mark Crenshaw, and he then referred me to the LEND, Leadership Education and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities Program, and this has been an exciting program for me to be a part of. Sometimes I'm the only gay, autistic, or Latinx person in any given space, and it makes me uncomfortable. I still think of the trauma that have plagued me for years every single day. I sometimes need strength to keep going to stay alive, so if anyone can give me that strength, please let me know. The effects of past trauma are the reasons I still have the problems I deal with today. I'm not depressed because of my autism. I'm depressed because of how people treated me due to my autism. However, I'm still here, so that's gotta mean something. You're not weak for asking for help. You are brave and strong because you have the courage to fight for your life. We need to make sure girls get diagnosed quickly and early because girls experience life on the autism spectrum different than a boy. The Me Too and Time's Up conversations have been going around, but we need to make sure that women with disabilities, other neurodiverse women, and women with autism are heard because our rights are as important as able-bodied, neurotypical women's rights are. Disability rights are human rights. We need to have services catered to us by people who understand us. We also need to make better representation in the media because it's always these white male geniuses that tell the story of autism. I've never seen a woman of color / gay autistic, or even a female autistic. And we need to represent all forms of autism so autistics can see themselves represented. In turn, be understood, people can learn more about autism and understand autism. Finally, just accept yourself. Your autism isn't a flaw, it's a strength. So focus on your strength to help you succeed. Writing this speech has been therapeutic for me because I'm getting it all out there that has been inside of me for so long. My mom has shown me what advocacy was, and I've strived to be the advocate that she was for me for other people. Thank you, and may my story inspire others.
Thank you so much, Taylor. Okay. Laura popped up on the screen a little earlier than we expected. Hey Laura, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Great, thank you. So everybody, the next person to present this afternoon is Laura Nadine, Skyping from New York.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Laura Nadine, and I have autism. After years of paying dues in both arts and education, I was tired of being broke. I really felt I had a different view on life and believed that I could make a difference in a widely broken education system in a nation where the arts were regulated to must-be abandoned shopping centers in the 1960s, making the term free and music synonymous with one another. I consulted with people who were touted as business savvy and in an effort to touch others with my work and still meet my basic living expenses. I spoke with CEOs and venture capitalists, marketing experts, financial advisors, entrepreneurs, paying for their advice with trips to Starbucks, even if that meant a dinner of rice and beans for me. All of them made the same general points. You have to advertise, create flyers, post them around town, give them to local schools. You need to apply for business loans. Money is how you make money. You need to advertise yourself as a music therapist because that's where the money really is. Some people told me I would be better off getting a minimum wage job at Walmart so I could draw a disability. I can promise you that all of these advisors were not autistic. The year was 2012. I was a single parent of two living on an income of about $8,000 a year American. I was unable to afford advertising for my business of teaching violin, viola, cello, and piano. I had been placing flyers for years, volunteered at local schools, sat on numerous boards offering the autistic viewpoint, sometimes only as a token, on everything from education, reform, to community program development. I had done everything, including borrow money to build the business. I was working really hard. One afternoon, I saw a Bush's Baked Bean commercial. You might remember these. They're the ones with the Deepee's dog that holds the secret recipe. As I watched the commercial, I was hit with an epiphany. I hate beans. I was sick and tired of eating beans. No more beans. I wanted filet mignon, imported Italian pastas, fine teas. I wanted a lifetime supply of Honey Nut Cheerios. So I thought, what can I do at no cost that lets people know where I am? I did everything I could to maintain an account with a cable internet provider so that I could have internet. Internet, a very powerful tool. I set up accounts with everything I could find for free. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Vimeo, LinkedIn. I even submitted my college film project, My Violent Cries, to a film festival so I could have an IMDb page. I used Google numbers to establish a Los Angeles phone number so I could get the illusion of being a bigger business. An idea a businessman told me would work. While collecting crowdfunding to create an album, John Schaefer, an independent film director from Arizona, approached me on Twitter wanting to Skype. He wanted to make a documentary about my ability to shadow listen. That's what I call it, shadow listening. I hear music in everything I see, all the time, like a soundtrack that never stops playing. You see, I'm not a music therapist. I'm a shadow listener. But when people look at me, they see my limitations. They see a woman alone and assume I'm too burdened by my autism or by taking care of my children to do anything more than just merely exist. John wanted to do more and started work on a documentary about me called The Shadow Listener. It started to feel hopeful, and I thought maybe my efforts were paying off. But still, I had so much of my own past to reconcile. It was becoming very evident that I was dragging another's own past with me, something I think women do often. I was born on February 28, 1977. I was a delightfully odd child. I think the technical term is pain in the butt. We didn't call it autism then. That diagnosis wouldn't come from me until the age of 27. My parents noticed I was odd, off, different, whatever word was chosen at the time, but I was the youngest of four, and so it just wasn't alarming. I possessed similar traits to my grandfather, so they thought I was just like him. Looking back on it, he probably was autistic too. What seemed to be noticed by my parents was the polar opposite differences within me. For example, despite starting violin at age 10, I was playing semi-pro at age 14. I was the youngest player to hold the principal chair in the Rome Symphony Orchestra. However, I couldn't tie my own shoes until I was 13. I could answer all the science questions and trivial pursuits at age 8, but I couldn't sleep away from home until I was 19. There was an obvious gap between my physical age, my emotional age, and my intellectual age. At the physical age of 13, about grade 7, I was emotionally still a 9-year-old, requiring reassurance and support from people around. Yet intellectually, I could converse with Mensa candidates 3 times my age. I was not like my peers, and boy, did they ever let me know it. To cope, I focused inwards on my abilities with the guidance of an incredibly supportive teacher, a mentor. I learned to communicate to the world around me through music. I could share a laugh or a tear. I could tell a story or take the listener on an adventure with me. Miss Stephanie, my violin teacher and lifelong mentor, allowed me to explore music in my own way. It still gently guided me back to the realm where my ability could become my means. As I approached middle school age, it felt an even greater distance from my peers, and that distance seemed to be growing exponentially. I couldn't understand their games. I was impatient with teachers who couldn't see that I was testing them. I became bored and withdrawn. But I didn't get in trouble, because I was a girl, and I was quiet, and I seemed good. With the invention of the Macintosh computer, came a great freedom for me. You might remember the little toaster Mac. I was able to take the music I heard in my head and put it to paper, and I composed pieces for the violin. First, Tarantello Russo, which won the state title. My first and only composition submission for a prize. Won the prize. As the world became more than I could bear, I reverted to my root and composed the world I wanted to live in. I did drop out of high school at the age of 16 and entered into a very dark time in my life, especially around relationships. My difficulties with perspective taking and my deep, unfiltered trust put me in dangerous situations. This continued until I was diagnosed with autism at age 26. My son, who was 3 at the time, and my daughter was 5. I lived in a tumultuous relationship which ended in divorce. I weighed all of 98 pounds with a waist size of 24 inches, which is way too small even for someone 5'2". My intellectualism and ideals were simply not enough to overcome my ineffective approaches to the people I should include in my life. Now, I only tell you this because I lived what many of you fear your child with autism would live. I made those mistakes because I didn't know I had autism, and that autism could make my interactions with people difficult. I thought everyone saw the world the way I did. Why not? My world, flowers sing and everyone is good. It was a looking glass kind of world. My diagnosis was the best moment of my young life. The word autism presented me with a toolbox. Imagine an electrician trying to wire your house with plumber's tools. You see, I had spent my life as an electrician using a plumber's toolbox. But with autism, I was given the right toolbox to make the most of my life. Dreaming seemed possible again. I changed my approach to parenting, returned to teaching music to any child who wanted to learn, including students with disabilities, both verbal and not. I had fallen, but I didn't want to stay down. True, maybe I fell harder than some others, but as a result of falling, I found my way. Let me fall, and I too will become a legend. I've developed my abilities to support me in life. I pay my own bills. I raised my kids completely alone. They're now 19 and 21. I have friends, and though they are few, they are solid, and I love them very much. When I was told by a publisher there was no market for books written by women on the spectrum, I self-published I Am Snamu, Snamu being the words human, backward, and the puzzle for Angie titles that I sell out every time I'm at conferences. When I was told my music wouldn't sell, I raised my own funds, something women hear often in the music industry. I recorded my own album at home using my MacBook Pro. While faced with a world where there's 66% of people with autism are unemployed, I stand in contrast as an entrepreneur, sharing my abilities with the world, and I do it without flyers, business loans, or help from the big autism industry, corporations like Autism Speaks, who claim they build better autistic lives. Instead, I earn a living being paid for my expertise as an autistic person by people who value my contributions. Because autism is a weight when it's placed on my shoulders, but a foundation when at my feet. The power of overcoming is the architect of life. As I said, I hear music in everything I see, even people. When I first met Brian, who I married in July, I got to watch him coach his hockey team. And though he was filled with passion, he was dressed in patience. As I watched, I listened to his song and how it was influenced by the kids he coached. He radiated compassion like ripples on a pond, and I could hear these ripples as I gently bumped those he was teaching. The children he taught admired him deeply, so much that the group of children sounded almost in unison. What was particularly amazing about this shadow song was the teacher was not the melody, his pupils were. He was the harmony. I may not be able to read his facial expressions with the accuracy of neurotypical people or interpret the tone of his voice, but I could hear his song. Instead, autism is my conduit to understanding the world around me and developing genuine connections with people in it. It was not a cure, or a diet, or a pill that has made life with autism more successful for me. Instead, it is access to technology, a community of people who understand me, and having the room to use my unique gifts in a way that elevates me. Free internet and affordable technology in my hands gave me a platform outside the radius limited by my means. And when I couldn't afford to put gas in my car, I was still able to publish posts on my blog and teach violin students online through a webcam. It was access to free internet that helped a film director connect with me to bring my story to a worldwide audience, including a recent screening in Singapore.
It's okay, just keep going.
You may wonder what the significance is all of this. Well, each year I receive hundreds of emails from parents who feel scared and lost, not knowing what to expect following a diagnosis. They tell me their stories and how it's even changed the perception of their own child. The voice of the self-advocate is often the little ray of hope that parents and young autistic people need to hear. That self-advocates are often muzzled by a cacophonous chatter of negativity stemming from policymakers, medical professionals, and ever-growing pharmaceutical industry, which compounds even more for females on the spectrum. As you reflect on my story today, think about what self-advocates have provided you in your personal quest with autism. As a parent, I understand your fears and your desires to ensure your child have a happy, safe, and healthy life. But I also understand your autistic children's needs. If you're one of those hundreds of parents that utilize free internet resources from self-advocates, I applaud you for having the courage to reach beyond the rhetoric of the industry and trusting the voice of people who live with autism. But I also ask you to take a moment to support self-advocates where you can. Entrepreneurial opportunities, presuming competence, and an opportunity to do more than be wedged into the corners of society. An opportunity to redesign our world. My name is Laura Nadine, and I have autism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was incredibly inspiring. I think I'd like to chat with you further. Okay, our next speaker is, let me get your last name correct, Becky Semenova. Becky, would you like to come up?
All girls autism panel speech. My name is Becky and I am a 16-year-old girl from Toronto, Canada. I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 11, but found out I had it later in life. When I was about 13 years old, I decided to show the world that people with autism should be accepted and understood. Now, I am an advocate for people on the autism spectrum and people with selective mutism. We should all be appreciated for who we are. I have reached out to people from all over the world with whom I could relate to, such as advocacy groups and autistic people in England, Texas, and of course, including those here in Georgia, and that helps me out a lot. It helps to know that I am not alone, and we help each other with our struggles. Throughout my work as a very ambitious advocate, I have made like-minded international friends that went through very similar things like me, and understand. We know that we are always there for one another. I work towards helping them become advocates as well, so that they could show that being different is wonderful, and different is never less. Besides autism and selective mutism, I also have different types of severe anxiety disorders, depression, OCD, and others, which all interfere with my daily life as an autistic very much. Even though I struggle with these challenges daily, I do everything I can for our community to raise awareness, understanding and acceptance of autism in our society. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be autistic? To be autistic means hearing and seeing things others don't always notice, which can have a grueling effect on your life. Every day, noises like pencils screeching, fluorescent lights, and students talking loudly at lunch can be a real trigger and overwhelm an autistic person. We can experience meltdowns due to all of the sensory overload we experience daily at work and mumble endlessly about an alien planet, or how he makes himself seen as a prophet. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be autistic? To be autistic means hearing and seeing things others don't always notice, which can have a grueling effect on your life. Every day, noises like pencils screeching, fluorescent lights, and students talking loudly at lunch can be a real trigger and overwhelm an autistic person. We can experience meltdowns due to all of the sensory overload we experience daily at work and school. They are really exhausting and hard to deal with, and it can feel like your brain is about to explode with all of the emotions and outside stimuli. We really need your understanding and in helping us avoid situations like these that cause us to feel out of control. Because of the sensory issues and cognitive differences that affect our daily functioning, we also have trouble with our learning and processing the information provided to us over a certain period of time. When I sit in class, and I hear the teacher mumble endlessly about an alien planet, or how he makes himself seem as a professional mathematician, I think to myself, why don't I understand any of this? I feel like an outcast from the class, like a failure, and I wish I understood what the topic was, but my brain seems too busy with thinking about something else. It's too hard to process and everything else going on around me. It seems like even the slightest thing can be the most difficult to understand, while everyone else is already learning and seems to be on topic with everything. I feel like the only one, with everything I deal with, who has trouble understanding the simplest things going on in the school environment. Why does society make it really hard for us, autistics, to live in this world as us, our true selves, and be openly autistic? This world has a lot of ableism, discrimination, and whenever they see something different or out of ordinary, they usually come to quick conclusions. This really hurts us as autistics. We have a really strong voice that needs to be heard. The hard thing is that we get dismissed a lot for our struggles, our pain, and we are often pressured by society to act neurotypical. My message to you all, professionals, parents of autistic children, teachers, and all the others here, is that all people matter. We might need to stim, which is our completely natural response to stimuli, a way of communication, and a way to physically express the way we feel and our emotions. It might seem weird or out of ordinary to you all, but trust me, we do have a reason for doing what we do. Let us be truly ourselves, accommodate for us, and see the beauty behind your unique, beautiful autistic child, student, or whoever it may be. As a person with autism, selective mutism, and other conditions, I have dealt with a lot of stigma, prejudice, along with inequity and injustice from most people, even therapists and teachers. I was excluded for my so-called weird behavior, the way I communicated, socialized with others, and the way I perceived different situations around me. I have come to say that with all this I had endured and experienced, that this is absolutely not right and should come to an end. I also have echolalia, which is a part of being on the autism spectrum. I repeat things I hear and may repeat it over and over again without meaning or context to the given situation. It's like my memory has been triggered and I am fully reliving the moment. It doesn't matter if the situation in which it happened occurred months or even years ago, but we may remember it very clearly in our minds, and say a particular word phrase over and over again indefinitely that stands out to us. It may as well be very unexpected, but I ask to all, please bear with us. Echolalia is a remarkable way for some people on the spectrum, myself included, to communicate and express their needs and wants. Embrace every single way the autistic person communicates, behaves, and reacts to the world. It indeed has a very deep meaning beneath the surface of what you can see, and it's a gift to have to see through that. Now, I would like to explain selective mutism to all of you and how it impacts my daily life and makes it live differently, as well. Selective mutism, SM for short, is a complex, severe anxiety disorder, in which a person who is normally capable of speech, cannot speak in specific, select situations and or while being in the presence of certain people. However, the same person is able to speak, sometimes even excessively, where they are comfortable and secure. For instance, with family and close friends. This condition is widely misunderstood, as most people have not even heard about it. There definitely needs to be more awareness spread of this condition, so that people like me, who are literally suffering in silence and constantly trapped inside their severe anxiety, so paralyzing it can take away our voice, can be understood. There is a great misconception that it is our choice not to talk, and we have control over it. In fact, that is definitely not a choice we make. Even though I desperately want to talk to you, my paralyzing anxiety that takes over won't let me. It is definitely painful to go through it, but it has a lot of positives too, because due to my struggles with SM, I am more sensitive to other people's struggles and challenges. Talk to me as you would to anyone else, even though I might not be able to respond verbally to you at all. It feels great to be connected and included, and can make my anxiety a bit easier to handle. The one thing to remember is to never pressure a person with selective mutism to talk to you, even to say one word, as this may make our anxiety even worse and make us even more uncomfortable and harder to start talking in a given situation. If a person with SM talks to you, that is a wonderful thing, and it is a way for us to say that we feel comfortable and trust you with everything we go through. It is one of the hardest things for people with SM to talk in anxiety-inducing or unexpected situations, so it is something to be cherished. Selective mutes can be talkative and even chatty with the people they do talk to. The people I can talk to are my immediate family and very close friends. I cannot speak to most people at all. I haven't said a single word at school in over 2 years. Can talk to our family, friends, and even doctors. People with SM often still struggle with severe anxiety, even in situations in which they can speak. Understanding and inclusion can help a lot. I hope you all can spread my message of inclusion, acceptance and understanding to the autism and SM community everywhere. We deserve to be heard. Despite of all my constant challenges I go through and the hardships I face, I can say that it has honestly helped me to become a better, more understanding and compassionate person overall. Thank you so much everyone for letting my voice being heard, and please remember, autistic people and people with SM have a lot to say and differences should be accepted. It's now time for a positive change in our world. We rock. Have a wonderful week and let autism be embraced. Let's shine autistic and selective mutism sparks everywhere to show our commitment to make this world a better, safer and more inclusive place for all of us. It really means a lot to me that I got this amazing opportunity to travel to share my story of my life with autism and selective mutism for the first time outside of my home city, here in Atlanta. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Becky. That's wonderful. I'm going to say that. Okay, well, we're going to take a very short break, and I emphasise the word very because of time. We do have some light refreshments at the back, which please help yourself to, and some beverages. And we will resume in between 5 minutes, I think. I know it's a lot of time, but you can bring your refreshments back to the table. Okay.
I'm going to give you an advance payment. Thanks to Sunny and her family.
I think, I'm trying to think. I guess I can pause the
$60
live
in
stream.
advance out of 100.
Thank you.
Just to consider it a down payment for the 40 remaining that I have to give
Really
you.
appreciate it.
My water, okay?
Okay.
Look, I understand. You got purses, so I won't fault wherever you guys are able to put things. I completely understand. Where's the stress balloon I gave you?
The little knot actually broke, so flour just kind of started pouring on the floor.
Hold that
It's
thought.
right over there.
Okay.
Social anxiety, woo.
I'm debating.
I had a feeling it wouldn't be enough.
Should
This is the best we can
I
do.
keep it?
You had to get some food. Look, I understand how bad anxiety gets. I used to suffer. So that's
I kind of started chewing on my shirt.
Okay, well we'll do parts. So to everybody listening, I'm going to stop this live stream, but it will start up again as a second live stream. So this is part 1, and the next one will be part 2. And you should get a notification of that if you are subscribed to Sunny's channel. So we'll be right back in about